Greetings Twitch and greetings YouTube. My name is Warmech Gaming and I'm here to present to you today a all mini games tutorial for Plants vs Zombies. This is on the PC Steam version, either Game of the Year version or pre-release there. And what I'm doing for the format today is I'm using the run of YMB or who we call YMB for short. They're the current world record holder in this category. So I'm just going over their video. You can see that on screen right here, right there on YouTube. You can see the link right at the top. Everything like that. So that should be that should be very, very good. And yeah, and again, you can see there in the bottom left, those are my channel or my channel's incentives and well. So all mini games is a very interesting category. There's a lot of RNG, a lot of luck, but nonetheless, there's still an extremely high skill cap. You could argue it's one of the higher skill cap, shorter categories, but that also comes with a large amount of RNG as well. So we'll be kind of going through the run, talking about strategies, and then I have an alternative strategy for another one of the levels that I wanted to go through and demonstrate using another run. And then finally, I was going to demonstrate a safer version of that same strategy for one of the more complex levels. So I hope you'll tune into the entire thing. Hope you enjoy the content, and yeah, again, feel free, absolutely support these runners. Very, very, very talented runners, particularly YMB, who has all the records and all the main categories and so forth. Yeah, so welcome Neku, welcome chat. Hope you enjoy the content, and yeah, without any further ado, we got about 2 hours in front of us, so let's go. All right, so the first thing that you saw right there is the first thing you want to do is buy the rake. The reason the rake is important is because it kills the first zombie. And that does not really matter so much on, you can see this is my cursor right here, sort of hovering around the rake, and then YMB's cursor is that one right there. So the rake is very important because it kills the first zombie. That doesn't matter so much on slot machine, which is basically our highest RNG category in the entire run. By the way, if you're looking for some probabilities, what we've basically found is that the probability of getting a match for any particular type of plant is about 1 in 10. So in other words, if you want a sunflower, again, roughly 1 in 10. It's actually a little bit, I think it's a little bit worse than that, but that's about how it is. And if you want a jackpot of any particular type of plant, that's about 1 in 100. Again, the probability of YMB having gotten 2 jackpots for the sun back to back, and now already being halfway towards the 2,000 sun goal that you need for this, again, is really absolutely crazy. But again, we find, the reason we play slot machine first is because it truly is about 99% RNG, really the only skill that's involved in the run. Wow, you can see there another sun jackpot. So again, the probability of your getting similar type of luck is not good, but nonetheless, you play enough times, and eventually you're going to get a good one at some point or another. And you can see what he's doing here. It looks a little funny to let some of the zombies go, but that's actually part of the strategy that you do potentially want to let things go. Welcome, by the way, Super. You do potentially want to let some zombies go, just because your goal is actually to kill the zombies as slow as possible, because the faster you kill the zombies, the more difficult zombies appear on screen, and the higher risk you have of losing your sunflowers, which is really the most important point. Yep. Hey, yeah, Jack said, yeah, we are using Firefox here to capture. It was just easier on OBS. I like the layout on Firefox better, than Chrome or, certainly Internet Explorer or anything like that. So, that's what we got right there. So anyway, again, another a very small tactic that you can use is that at the very beginning of the level, you actually don't want to hover over the little lever there, the little thing you use to pull the slot, just because the game will lag for a couple of seconds if you do. So just make sure you start with your cursor right here and then begin spinning everywhere thereafter. And once the game started, it won't lag anymore. So you'll kind of just get used to the rhythm. Obviously, you kind of want to spam click it as quick as possible. That's really the only skill that's involved in this game, other than, as you can see what YMB is doing here. It's very important to try to protect your top rows as much as possible, and just try to plant the sunflowers in these top, these first 3, maybe 4 columns or so, and try to get 1 snow pea per row. Again, it slows down the zombies. It really gives you a lot of additional protection. I personally like planting the walnuts in the 8th column. Nothing wrong with putting them in the 7th column either. And again, in terms of what your goals should be for this level, if you're starting off a 5-minute to 5-minute 30-second level, should be good. We find about 6.5 to 7 minutes is the average. So if you can get a 5 to 5.5 minute time, that's pretty good. As you get more and more optimized, you might want to move to 4:30 to 5 minutes. And what I shoot for now is actually a 4-minute to 4:30 time. And I'm sure if YMB tries to improve this time, he's probably going to be shooting for something similar in right in that 4-minute range. The last thing that YMB actually doesn't take advantage of, but that we've sort of, since this record was formed, we've sort of done the math out on, is that you want to stop spinning when your amount of current sun equals 1900 minus 100 times the number of sunflowers you have. So, in other words, if you have 9 sunflowers, you should actually stop spinning mathematically when you reach just 1,000 sun. And likewise, like if you have 4 sunflowers, you should stop spinning when you get to about 1,500 sun. It seems very counterintuitive, like it seems very difficult, but Aaron's saying about 550 was the average on a simulator. Yeah, so again, if you're starting out, maybe 5 minutes to 5 minutes 30 seconds, and then again, don't go for the craziest RNG if you're just kind of learning the game and learning the category. Just kind of move along there. Welcome, by the way, to Aaron, Oscar, and Bent. Glad to have you all here on the stream today. Again, this run is being done by YMB LCZA, the record holder in the category. So again, look, no hands. That's what we got there. Figured it was easier to kind of talk about things while I wasn't kind of worried too much about the hype. And YMB is better at this particular category than I am, so I thought it would be nice to sort of use a good demonstration of skill rather than my only passable level. So again, the next level YMB does is Walnut Bowling. I don't necessarily disagree with this. This is a very difficult one. You basically have a 15% chance of getting an Explodonut and then an 85% chance of getting a regular walnut. So you can see basically your goal in the first half, you want to try to use really as few Explodos as possible. If you can beat the entire first half, the first flag, by only using regular walnuts, then you're going to be in great shape. You get a lot more value in the second half, and the second half goes really, really slow if you've used up all of your Explodonuts. You can see here what he's doing is he's taking advantage of what we call the 50% rule. And basically that's a mechanic in most levels of Plants vs. Zombies whereby if you do 50% of the current wave's hit points, so right now you can see the current wave are all of these zombies that are appearing on screen, then the next wave will appear, and so forth. Then if you do 50% of that wave, the previous waves actually don't even matter at that point. You do 50% of that wave, then the following wave will appear, etc. You can see part of the reason why he's stalling a little bit. Unfortunately, he really wanted to save the lawnmower there. I might have actually let that go, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad decision. He did decide to use another Explodonut, again, just to make that huge wave appear. He knew he was kind of running low on walnuts there. But basically, the 50% rule is very important, meaning that you have to do up to 50% of the current wave's hit points. It could be as little as 35% for the next wave to appear. You can see there, like with that Explodonut, he already got more value than he would have on any wave in the first half. And you can see right here, he's kind of using back-to-back Explodonuts just to make these waves go really, really fast. And again, you can see the walnut, basically by guaranteeing that you get 3 out of the 5 columns, you basically have 100% chance when you use an Explodonut, if it hits the current wave, you can actually use a little trick there to prevent the vaulters from jumping. That's a pretty cool mechanic. Again, the rest of what he's doing here is just you want to make sure that you get as much value out of each walnut as you can. You can see there, he's getting some nice bounces. Really just trying to use the 50% rule to as much advantage as he possibly can. There, he has to let that go. Unfortunately, again, really didn't get a lot of value out of that mower, hence why I would have let that mower go a little bit sooner. But again, this level, it is possible to take a death. It's a very difficult one. He didn't get a ton of Explodo Nuts here. I'd say he got a little bit below average Explodo Nuts. The time that you want to shoot for here, again, 4 minutes is an unbelievable time. 5 minutes is an acceptable time. And again, if you're a new runner and you get kind of closer to the 6-minute time frame, I wouldn't worry too much about that. That's really that's really okay. Not a big deal. Again, luckily you got a couple of Explodo Nuts here. This should help take him pretty close to the final wave. And you can see another advantage, another thing he's trying to do is using these lawnmowers right as the final wave either is about to spawn or actually spawns, because if you use a lawnmower, then you're guaranteed not to get any zombies in that wave for a little while. So by using the 2 lawnmowers right here, he basically can assure that once he gets an Explodo Nut, he should be able to take care of that entire middle section, and I think that's what that's what he's waiting for. That's what he's waiting for right here. Welcome, by the way, Aquamouser. I'm glad you got to redeem the Bong Choy. Yep, that's exactly what he's doing right here. Use the Explodo right there in the middle, and you'll get all of them. So I know I'm splitting on someone else's. Again, those of you just joining, I'm going over YMB LCZA's minigames attempt. Next one that he does is Invisible. This is a deceptively difficult one. It can be a real pain in the ass for someone. The only guaranteed things that you get are your first 2 plants are guaranteed to be a pea shooter and an ice shroom, and you're guaranteed basically for the first 4 or 5 waves not to get any zombies in the bottom row. And it's also very important to listen right here. If you hear that clunking sound, that means that there's a cone head in that row. Cone head, the same 50% rule we were talking about earlier applies to this level as well. Obviously, you're not killing the zombies instantly. You're doing their hit points a little bit more gradually over time. And so it's not important to remember exactly, but a regular zombie has 10, for all intents and purposes, takes about 10 regular pea shots to kill. They actually have a little bit more hit points than that, but a cone head takes 27 regular pea shots, and a bucket head takes 60. So as a result, we tend to save the squashes for the bucket heads, sort of as you would do in casual play anyway. YMB is getting really, really good RNG at the beginning here. Very, very rare that you get sort of all of the pea shooters that you need so early in the level, but that's great. Anyway, yeah, well, welcome, Aquamos. We're really, really glad to have you back, and I'm happy you could catch the stream. It's very, very, very exciting. And yeah, you're welcome, May, by the way, for this. I sort of thought we were having some increasing popularity in the mini games run, so I thought it made sense to do an updated tutorial. We have updated the strategy since the first tutorial that I did, which is probably over a year ago now. We've improved the world record in the category by about 6 minutes, and I've improved my personal best also by about 6 minutes as well. So yeah, so again, some new strategies that really help us out by quite a bit. Also important, you can sort of see a splash when the zombie gets in the pool. So again, important to do that. And again, just, it's really important on this level. I know we're not doing that now because I'm yakking over it, but you hear the ping. Well, it's a little hard to hear. You could hear some pings. That's the sign that you have a bucket head in that row, and probably important to use a squash, particularly early on in this first flag here. So, not hearing anything else there. So again, saving onto these squashes, really nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with doing that. And also, it's also important. You heard the ping when the butter got a hit. Again, also very important to do that. And the one exception to the 50% rule is that on the 9th wave, which is this wave right here, you can hear a cone head there. It honestly might have been worth almost squashing that, but he decides to save the squash for the second flag, which is totally understandable. But on the 9th wave, and of course on the final wave, and the 19th wave as well, which is the one right before the huge wave, which you can tell by the little zombie head at the bottom there, you need to do 100% of that wave's hit points. So again, that's why you saw we had to wait until we killed that zombie until the huge wave appeared. The exception is if you wait 25 to 31 seconds, then the huge wave will Oh, yeah, unfortunately got a little bit wrecked there. Again, the Ice Shroom does a little bit of damage, so it's actually not necessarily a bad idea once a new wave appears on screen to use an Ice Shroom. You also want to save one Ice Shroom, though, for the final wave, because we get a chance to take advantage of a glitch. You also heard there and can see that there was a Zomboni that appeared on screen. Very, very, very important to make sure that you have a squash available for the Zombonis, because that is that's extremely difficult. Yeah, just for normal waves, yeah, a little bit longer for the for the huge wave as well. So again, definitely wanting to make sure that you do damage for those huge waves. Again, the reason we're planting walnuts kind of in this funny spot right here is because of the diver zombies. The diver zombies, they need to enter the pool, and then they need to jump over something that's either in the that's in, you know, really in one of these columns. Otherwise, they move really fast down the row and start attacking your plants. So he uses I tend to use the 6th or the 7th column as well. You could go as far out as the 8th column, but then again, you sort of risk the walnuts taking a little bit more damage from some of the other zombies. Yeah, and again, at this point, you know, just try to balance the firepower in all the rows. The butter has almost half of the damage per second of a pea shooter, so really about 2 butters is what it takes to equal the firepower of a regular pea shooter. So in terms of balancing the firepower, you can see here he's doing a little bit more of a priority to get some additional zombies in some of the pools, as well as putting some of the butters in the pool just to, you know, just so that if they do get a butter hit, it stops them from damaging, you know, from going forward too far, from damaging the walnuts too much. So yep, so that's you know, that's really about it. You know, again, this level is mostly RNG. That's why we play it so early in the level, or so early in the run. You really want to get those RNG only levels out of the way, because if you get completely trolled or completely wrecked, which if you start grinding this category at some point, you definitely will, you really want, you know, these ones to get out of the way. We call we call them the RNG 5. That would be Slot Machine, Walnut Bowling, Invisigool, Raining Seeds, and Dr. Zomboss's Revenge. Although you could potentially add in that column like you see them, and even Portal Combat are really the RNG 7, because those are the levels that, in my opinion, are more dependent on RNG than they are on the runner's execution. The rest of the runners all have, you know, the rest of the levels in the run are all mostly RNG, or are less RNG based, more skill based. Ooh, you can see, unfortunately, he's getting some pinging here, but doesn't have a lily pad to put a little bit more firepower. So a little bit of bad luck. Just gonna wait that out. And I do agree with the decision to really try to save one squash for the final wave. It can be a real pain when you don't get one. You can see here he had to wait out the 50% rule. And what your timing here, right about as that. He actually did it a little bit late here, believe it or not. You want to place the Ice Shroom right as the text is about to appear, not after disappear, not right after it disappears. And what that does is it prevents zombies from appearing in the pool. And then you can see what he does here. He just uses the damage from the Ice Shrooms to do just a little bit more damage. Again, important to save the squash, probably for whatever row is the slowest, so that at the very end you can just throw a squash there. If you have 2 squashes, important to probably listen to the pinging, you know, just to try to make sure. But he actually really kind of wiped out that final wave very quickly. Only mistake in that was he was a little bit late using the Ice Shroom glitch. You want to use it just before the text disappears. It requires a little bit of practice and a little bit of timing to get it just right. So that's what you got. Again, the last really bad one in the RNG 5 is this one here, Raining Seeds. The one thing he doesn't do, we'll talk about that a little bit, the order that you play the levels at the end. I believe that my order is the best, and we will describe why that is in just a little bit. You know, this level can be a little bit challenging just because, again, you have fog, and again, the types of plants that drop is basically pure RNG. You're a little bit more likely, particularly at the beginning of the level, to get lily pad drops than anything else. Obviously, they want you to be able to plant some lily pads. And believe it or not, you can actually look through the fog just a little bit. Like you could, if you saw it very carefully, you could see right there that the zombie was walking in that row. So sometimes it can be very important to do that. And then again, on the very top row, you can see just the top of the zombie's head. So that's again, so that's an important factor to pay attention to as well. You can see right here again, see that cone head. That's why he used the jalapeno, because he knew the cone head was going to be very difficult to kill just with one butter pulp. Again, nothing wrong with putting a couple of lily pads in the pool. What I sometimes do is I'll put 1 or 2 lily pads in the 7th column in the pool. That way, if we get a plantern at the very beginning or a magnet or something like that, we can put it in the ideal spot. You just don't quite know what you're going to get. So I personally recommend either in the 6th or the 7th columns, putting one of your early lily pads a little bit farther forward. Not sure if that's spam or what's going on there, but anyway, I hope that that's a positive contribution to that. So yes, thank you for the spam removal. I appreciate that. Again, one disadvantage of the magnets are, you obviously don't want them to get eaten, and if you have somewhat bad luck, which is what Y and B had, it's a little bit safer to put the magnet. Again, if you're playing in any percent, it's okay to move the magnet all the way up to the 7th column. Ooh, and the 3-peater is sort of the glory plant for this level. Very, very nice to get 3-peters and magnets are by far the most productive. So he went from kind of a crappy level to actually like a pretty darn good one. So that's what we get. Yep. So no song requests, no external links unless it's absolutely relevant to the discussion. Plants vs. Zombies speedrunning. That's really what we're interested in this channel. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. So the rest of it, again, very similar to Invisigold, just really trying to balance the firepower in each row. You can see the top right now is a little bit weak, so whatever he gets for some of the top rows, going to want to add a little bit extra firepower there. And the 50% rule, like we've said before, actually does continue to apply to this level as it did to the other ones. Once you do 50% of the current wave's hit points, then the next wave will appear, etc. So that's pretty important. And the other thing that you'll want to pay attention to a little bit is that you do start getting screen door zombies in the 2nd flag. And the screen door zombies are not technically immune to the normal pea shooters, but you'll want to make sure that you have some sort of lobbing plant. If you have one available, a melon pult, or a fume shroom, you'll want to have something that counters the screen door zombies if you can in each row. Fortunately, he loses his puff shroom there. Again, the magnets also very, very important. Try to split those between the top and the bottom. The magnets have basically a 3 square by 3 square radius that they can use. So there's no single magnet that will do everything. And again, if you get a couple of planterns, just try to get some vision there. Again, a slightly more aggressive magnet used right here, but I don't disagree with that because there's a lot of firepower in this row, so the chances of that magnet getting eaten are very low. If you get a torchwood, try to put it in whatever row has the most amount of pea shooter firepower. Again, it really wrecks some of those rows. Also, you don't want to put it in a row that you have a snow pea because it will counteract the effect of the snow pea, which is actually very good on this level. Very, very important. So there you go. Again, if you get something like a puff shroom, again, I like the 7th column for that one. That's this column right here. It basically covers any, it has a range of almost 3 tiles, so you can see that it'll cover the zombies coming on screen, without being too worthless. And again, this is one of our favorite combinations in almost all of the speed runs, all of the categories we have right there. The chomper potato. The chomper will protect the potato from getting eaten, and then once the potato arms, it protects the chomper from getting eaten until, well, maybe not necessarily till it recharges, but at least close. Ice shrooms are sort of all but worthless on this level. If you do use them, make sure that you use them only when there's a current wave that's on screen. You technically can actually freeze the zombies off screen, so that of course you do not want to do. I disagree with this. I actually would have put it probably either here or here. I think he could have made, slightly better use of that. Not a huge deal. And the Doom Shrooms can be very, very powerful, particularly if you get like a nasty wave on screen, like football zombies or bucket heads, and you don't have a lot of magnets, or any of your ninth waves as well. You can definitely go ahead and doom those. The bungee zombies can be a real pain in the ass. I swear to God, I get worse luck than anybody else in terms of them stealing, the melon pults, the three-peaters, the magnets, the lanterns, all of the very valuable plants on this row. I swear the three-peaters or the bungees are just incessant about stealing your best plants, but it's RNG. That's really all you can do. So if you have an instant, which you saw right there, it is possible to kill the bungee zombies if you use that instant strategically. So anyway, again, the rest of the level is just, again, sort of balancing the firepower between the rows, making sure that all rows, have some sort of solution to screen doors, to bucket heads, to things like that. And again, if you do get a powerful zombie, like a footballer, make sure you have the right amount of firepower, and or, a magnet or something to help protect it. The fumes have a range of about 4 tiles, so if you put a fume in the 5th row, it'll reach to the 9th row, and if you put it in the 6th, or if you put it in the 5th column, it'll reach to the 9th column, and if you put it in the 6th column, then it'll reach all the way even off screen a little bit. So definitely the 5th or 6th columns are best for the fume shrooms. Other thing, the bungees will steal the blower if you ever run into that situation. It's a pretty funny mechanic. I think there's a clip on my channel of just that. So if you're ever looking for some good fun, you can do that. Yeah, again, very, very important. If you can use a squash against like a bucket head, a football zombie, that'll almost instantly satisfy the 50% rule, given that the football zombies have 80 hit points. Again, not using the actual term there, but they take 80 regular P-shots to kill, so if you can kill them using one of your instants, that's very good. The marigold is the most worthless plant in this run, but sometimes it can sort of serve as cannon fodder, so to speak, for the bungee zombies. Sometimes the bungee zombies will choose to hit your marigold rather than something that's a little bit more valuable. So it is important to plant the marigold. Sometimes you can also use it to block zombies that are coming after your plants. So again, another very small tactic there that you can use. Again, a little bit of bad luck there. He's getting the melon pult stolen. The last thing is that towards the end of the level, you really want to put a lot of firepower, if you can, in the pool. The reason being that you almost never get the opportunity to prevent the zombies from spawning in the pool. So again, you want to add a little bit of extra firepower to the pool, just because, again, you get zombies that appear in the pool in addition to the zombies that appear off screen and kind of enter the pool. So the most amount of zombies are almost always going to be in the pool for the final wave. So again, as you kind of get into late into the level, just make sure that you have as much firepower there as you can there. So yep, I would say there's more focus on getting the 50% rule. Particularly, again, if you get kind of a balance of plants, which honestly, Y&B got a pretty fair balance of plants there. You saw, like, you got 2 three-peaters, 2 magnets, 2 melon pults, a repeater, a handful of instants here and there. It was actually pretty well balanced, which is really what you want for that level. If you get too many of one type of plant, even if it's a good plant, like, I've had runs where I've gotten 5 or 6 three-peaters, but I didn't have a solution to the metallic zombies, and so I actually got, like, a relatively bad time. So that's something to pay attention to. Dr. Zomboss, again, almost all RNG. The only thing that I would add is that you actually want, you probably want to, really the goal of this is to protect your melon pults as much as possible. And there's sort of a few ways of doing that. An important technique that you want to use here is using the jalapenos at the beginning after Zomboss is fully down, that he fully appears on screen. Use a couple jalapenos, save one probably, save one of each type of instant plant just in case, again, he decides to, whether he uses his fire ability or his ice ability, that you have a counter to that. Again, the jalapenos do a ton of damage to Zomboss, so it's very, very important to try to save every jalapeno you can for Zomboss. It's almost worth probably losing 2 or 3 regular plants on screen in order to save a jalapeno. Again, he's actually getting pretty good RNG here. Again, you want to make sure he's fully on screen before you use jalapenos. He has to do his animation where he's fully all the way down, and then he starts bobbing his head a little bit. You don't want to use the jalapeno too early, or you will not do any damage to him at all. So again, it takes a little bit of getting used to, and again, just sort of making sure you want to make sure that you have one ice shroom, usually for after he's launched his his fire or his ice ability, and just make sure you try to use all your jalapenos. You want to use most of your instants by the time he appears. Again, as he's doing the animation of going back up, he's also invulnerable. So again, just make sure that that's okay. Again, this was a borderline situation in my opinion. He saves a melon pult, he saves a cabbage pult. It's relatively early in the level, still in the first half of the level. So again, probably I think I personally would have let those 2 plants go, but it's a little bit of a toss-up, to be honest. The very last thing is that it does seem like once you get the maximum number of plants on screen, you're not going to get any more. Again, he's using the same thing there. Use the jalapenos in the roads that have the most dangerous zombies. That opens up all of your firepower to be able to hit Zomboss. And then again, you can stall him with some ice shrooms until you get your next jalapeno and ice shroom. You can see there he knows that it's going to be fire because Zomboss's eyes turn red. So he knew he could safely, kind of use the jalapenos in the order that he did. That's what you're left with. And again, nothing wrong with, using a jalapeno or 2 right as he's about to appear. You just want to make sure that you're not using any of those instants when he's invulnerable, when he's going off screen. The Zomboss bus is mostly RNG, but you'll notice that the probability of the bus hitting any of the corners and any of the edges is a little bit less. All of the plants that are in the middle 3 rows and the middle columns are more at risk. So that's why you usually don't want to put your melon pults anywhere in these middle couple of spaces right here, just because they're more likely to get bust. So that's why you see he has so many melon pults, in the top row, the bottom row, even the back column, although the back column is particularly vulnerable from time to time. That's what we end up with. You can see here he's really, it's better to use an ice shroom to try to stall out some of these zombies than it is a jalapeno. Again, you really want to try to do everything in your power to save the jalapenos for Zomboss himself. You can see that's exactly what he's doing right here. He's basically almost banking on trying to kill Zomboss this phase. A little bit risky, yes, but I think that there's a pretty reasonable chance. In waiting for that fireball to appear, then I'd even get everything else off screen. Use the ice shroom. Ooh, man, he did it in the other order than I would have. He was very close to appearing off screen. Kills him just at the edge of that particular phase. Yep, exactly. Yeah, so the symmetry is okay, but because you want to do a balanced amount of damage. You still want to be able to damage all the plants that are on screen, but it's even more important to protect your melon pults by trying to make sure that they don't get bust. You can never guarantee that they don't get bust, but sometimes it will. So that's a nice tip. Very good. Okay, so next on YMB's list, again, this is YMB playing, this is not me. I just wanted to be able to provide some focused commentary over the run, particularly over the runner that has the world record in this category. Just to kind of give the best demonstration of the gameplay, while also sort of being able to provide my thoughts on the commentary and sort of why he's doing some of the things that he's doing. Yep. So a little, it could have been a little bit of a misclick there. Yep. Oh yeah. YB also had a misclick on the last tutorial as well, which is all okay. It's all well and good. Those sorts of things happen. But that's what we got. So Bobsled Bonanza is very, very interesting. The 50% rule gets satisfied when the bobsled disappears. So you can see that's why he's actually waiting when he gets a bobsled in a safe row like this. He's actually waiting. He's not necessarily going to want to lose, but he wants to wait 50% rule satisfied, and then using the. It's actually very, very rare and very lucky to be honest, to get so many bobsleds so early. If you get the Zombonis, the only way to get the 50% rule is either to wait out the 25 to 31 seconds. This is actually a crazy number of bobsleds. I didn't realize how good this was in his PP. Oh yeah, this is also not Call 'em Like You See 'em. This is Bobsled Bonanza. He said, yeah, he accidentally did them in the opposite order. Nothing wrong with that. And you can see he actually does get value of the lawnmower there. So, yep. So what he's doing here, believe it or not, is setting up a glitch that we take advantage of later in the level. You'll see exactly why that is. It makes sense. But again, you have to make sure you get all 9 waves dead, and then usually we use a Doom on the huge wave because you start to get a lot of these regular zombies. But he's going to wait because it's important to make sure that one Zomboni gets a very small ice path that happens to coincide exactly with the with where this potato mine is placed. What he's doing here is he's setting up a glitch that basically, rather than getting regular zombies, you get all bobsleds, and it's all only going to be in the row that has the ice that's available, as you can see right here. And then in any other row that you're going to get zombies, it's going to be from they're going to run into your spike rock, which we haven't talked too much about, but very important to try to get that spike rock down as soon as you possibly can, and make sure it gets on cooldown, because the spike rock is really a great counter. You can see he actually has no plants, like no pea plants, nothing that actually shoots normal firepower. And then again, on any the 19th wave, wanting to make sure that you use the cherry bomb to kill whatever the last the last zombie that appeared there was, whether it's a bobsled or a regular zombie. Again, the Doom is used in all of the huge waves. Ooh, he actually was a little bit early there, in my opinion. Although these zombies should all hopefully die. Oh, he's just going to use a jalapeno there. That makes sense. Again, you want to make sure you get all of your spike rocks down on the you want to start with the bobsled row, and then make sure you have 2 or 3 spike weeds to take care of the zombies as they appear there. Actually got a Yeti, which is really funny as well. The Yeti you do not need to kill. He eventually gets scared and runs away. But it's kind of funny, a little bit memey actually, that we got the Yeti. I've actually never gotten the Yeti in any of my minigames runs, which might be because maybe in that particular file I don't know if I've beaten New Game Plus. Again, right there on the 9th wave, very important to use the cherry. That's because, again, you need to have 100% of the current wave's hit points, and you can see how slow these bobsled zombies are to actually die. So again, pretty important to make sure you take care of that right. Again, he's a little bit earlier with some of those Dooms than I personally would have been, but again, that helps to satisfy the 50% rule a little bit quicker. Again, you do risk some of the zombies not getting killed by the spike rock. That's okay. At some point, you may need to replace one of your spike rocks, usually in the 4th flag right here, but you can see it sort of aligns nicely with when the spike rock gets off cooldown anyways, which is great. Yep, you can see right there, he was totally ready for it. And again, you can plant, if you run out, you can use your spike weeds, you can use your jalapenos, you can use anything you want to. The important thing here is just to make sure that you do save 1 Doom for the final wave, and 1 cherry for the 39th wave, which is right there. But basically, again, what's happening here is, rather than getting regular zombies, we're only getting bobsleds, and when the bobsled itself dies, that satisfies the 50% rule for the bobsled itself. Again, what he's doing right here, there's a chance that a zombie would appear in the pool and try to eat the Doom, so he uses a jalapeno to protect the Doom, believe it or not, and then make sure all zombies get on screen, use the Doom, and you're done the level. It is way faster than any other strategy. It is like 3, 4, 5 minutes faster than any other strategy to do things this way. It is like actually ridiculously fast. It is so good. Anyway, so yes, this was a misclick. That was obviously not column like you see him. That was bobsled, so he's just going to reverse the order. You can do the minigames in any order you want, and in fact, almost all of our top runners do them in a slightly different order. I'll talk at the end of the stream about why I do the levels in the order that I do, and why I believe that it's the best. Interesting Portal combat. Basically, all of the zombies for the entire first flag, or until the portals move, are going to appear in the top 2 rows. 1 or 2 of them may appear in the middle row, but basically, Portal combat got reprogrammed such that if the zombies have like 2 tiles to go, they won't appear in the 2nd or 4th row, and that would be like kind of cheap, right? They appear in the 2nd row and then they're already like at the end of the row. That's not fair. So the game basically reprogrammed it such that almost all of the zombies will appear in the top 2 rows, again with just the occasional zombie in the middle row, because when we think that it's basically like a function of how far the zombies have to walk. Those are the rows that they're most likely to appear in. He actually made a mistake here. He should have saved the cherry for the 9th wave, but instead he used it on the 8th wave. That was a small mistake in my opinion. Now that the portal has moved, he is going to get some zombies in this bottom row. Not quite as many, but he will get he will get a couple. He still will not get any zombies in the 4th row at all. So again, now what this level is about, he actually got incredibly lucky here. It's very rare that you get 5 Torchwoods even across the entire level. But interestingly, he got no cactus plants. So you can see here, he's actually at a little bit of a risk of some of these balloon zombies going all the way through, including this one, which, oops, already reached the lawnmower. So Portal combat, you want to do pretty early, because it is possible to take a death on this level through no fault of your own. Yeah, you can see here, it's actually very scary. So if you run into a situation like this, first of all, if you get a cactus plant, use it immediately. Next thing you want to do, absolutely save the cherry. His saving the cherry right there when he, when he could have, faced disaster, definitely saved the run. He absolutely would have taken a death right there if he hadn't saved the cherry. Very, very, very important that if you get no cactus or not enough cactus, that you that you do that. I usually will even save my cactus plants until the first balloon or 2 appears on screen. You can see here he's actually getting a little bit unlucky again. These 2 balloon zombies are potentially going to appear in the bottom, but what he does right here, he waits till they're all on screen. Look at this. This is beautiful. That was a beautiful, beautiful patience right on the 9th wave, and saves himself a death. Those balloon zombies at the end would have gone right there to the edge of the row, and he definitely would have taken a death. Again, right here, use the cherry very wisely, then unload the rest of the plants. This was an incredible level. He was only about 20 seconds off world record, maybe even a little bit less than that, and he did a couple of very smart things there to save himself the run, despite not getting any cactus plants at all. So again, normally your Portal combats will not be like that, but if they are, just make sure that you save a cherry or 2, you save a cactus or 2, and really make sure that you use those cactus plants in the back row, so that you're protecting yourself if you do run into a situation where you lose the lawnmower. All right, so moving on to Begooled. Begooled is really, nothing to say other than you should just practice it. Eventually you can sort of learn like where some doubles are. I also find that I tend to try to gravitate towards making matches that are at the bottom of the level rather than the top. Reason being that when you do a match at the top, you only get like 3 new plants, right? Or 4 new plants. But if you do a match at the bottom, everything is shifting down a little bit, so you're a little bit more likely to get a double if you do that. Again, sometimes you don't have a choice. There's no matches at the bottom, so really what's most important is just like to make matches. But again, if you can't, look at everything at the same time, try to focus a little bit more on the bottom and making matches there, just because then you're more likely to get additional matches as more plants are sort of shifting downwards and potentially helping you to get a double or a triple or anything like that. That's very good. Other than that, it's just practice. It's just getting used to it. Some people are better than others at match 3 games like this. I'm not the greatest. A good time for me is 2 minutes. A good time for other runners is like 1:40. A good time for other runners might be 2 minutes 30 seconds. So that's okay. I want to talk, I'm going to pause right here just to talk a little bit about Begooled Twist, because what you want to look for here, I'm a little bit better at this one, is you really want to look for a lot of like patterns. And so what those patterns are I'll sort of call them broadly like a couple of different things. The first one is what I call the L shape, and you can see that right here. And there's different orientations that the L shape could take. It could be literally an L like this. It could be like a reverse L. It could be like this or like this or like this. But basically, if you have that situation, you know that the spin is clockwise. So if you click right here, right in this spot right here, you'll get a match 3 because it'll turn this way and turn into a line of 3. So any of those L shapes, you should try to train your eyes to like look for those a little bit. Hey, by the way, A1, appreciate you stopping in for our Minigames tutorial. Welcome. The other thing that you'll want to look for, again, is sort of like I call this like the disjointed L shape. If you have a situation where you have 2 plants like this and one that's like this, if you spin this section right here, you'll see there where it sort of like flips them in a way that moves the pea shooters together like this. Also, a subset of the L shape is if you get them in a square, right? That's basically like an L shape in a bunch of different directions, and you can potentially you can get a 3 stack in any direction there. The other orientation is what I call like the one away, and what that is like you see in the bottom right here. So if you were to spin, I should spin my mouse in the direction that the orientation is. If you spin this row right here, you'll move this one to the right and you'll get it as a one away. You can also get a one away like vertically or horizontally, or if you have a one away in this direction, you can get that too. So again, it's not perfect. There's a couple other orientations that you can look for that are like a little bit more complex, but those are the main ones. Look for L shapes, look for the one away, and look for sort of the long L like this, where you can sort of rotate 2 plants into another one and get a match that way. The other thing is there's absolutely nothing wrong with like it while you're looking for matches, just spam click. It only costs about a quarter of a second for the game to do like a little bloop. And so if you're looking for a match, just sort of click around. Every once in a while you get lucky and you find a match that you weren't looking for. So really nothing wrong with doing that. Welcome, by the way, YMB. You'll probably recognize the content right here. So thank you for the great demonstration of what a skilled player in this particular category looks like. See, we had a one away. We got the L shape right here. Had a one away, like moving it up like that. Again, that's sort of a subset of the long L that I was telling you about. Another one that you saw, he had a V shape right there. If you kind of move it, the V shape's a little bit complicated, but a couple of one aways. There's an L shape right there. There's sort of, again, the one away where you can pull it in that direction. Again, no perfect way. There's sort of a one away right there. Again, I made these terms up. I pulled them out of my keister right here, but that's just sort of what I look for and what I use on Begooled Twist. You'll see there, yep, same sort of thing. Again, YMB is much better and faster at this level, I would say, than the average person, certainly than myself. Again, sometimes it's possible to see doubles on this one, but it's really the other thing I would say, once you start not to see too many matches, just reset. It costs less than a second. It's only 100 sun. It's way better. Like if your brain is like fizzled for like 5 seconds trying to find that last match, just don't worry about it. Train yourself. It's It's okay to reset. There's no shame. Maybe your chat will be yelling at you, oh, you missed one in the corner, but like, who cares? Just like reset it anytime you can't find a match. And also try to be looking one match ahead. Like once you see what you want, start looking for the next match. Like sort of while you're moving your mouse and while the spinning thing has happened, start to look for that next match. Start to look for that next match, and you'll find yourself. That one really you just have to practice. Nothing more to it than that. Walnut Bowling 2 is very interesting. You might think that Walnut Bowling 2 is more difficult than Walnut Bowling 1, but it actually isn't. We take advantage here of what we call conveyor RNG, or conveyor manipulation. And what that is that the more plants that you have on the conveyor, the less likely you are to get that plant. So, and it basically takes effect after you have at least 2 on the conveyor. So once you get the 3rd and even the 4th, but the RNG stops once you get the 5th. So what you'll see right here, we have 4 walnuts that are on the conveyor now, and we're not going to get any more regular walnuts. You get a couple, so it's not that you don't get any more, but you get very, very, very few for the rest of the run. We're now only going to get basically giant walnuts and Explodonuts, which, as you can see, are much faster and carry much more damage than anything else. So that's what we got. So really what you want to do, it's sort of a similar strategy to Walnut 1 in the sense of try to use your Explodonuts to get the 3 rows in each column, and then sort of alternate that by throwing a couple of giant walnuts sort of once the zombies get a little bit too far ahead, or if you get, you know, the dancer zombie or the vaulter zombie. Again, this is great use right here. You can see he gets 50%. Well, he should have gotten 50%. He got a little bit unlucky there. And then again, you know, once you kind of reach a point where you're like, ooh, these zombies are getting a little close, take one wave and just use all your giant walnuts. Again, sort of alternate between having a couple of giant walnut waves, and try to make sure you always have an opening for the Explodonut. That's very, 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 very important. He actually gets pretty unlucky right there. I forgot about that part of the run. Gets a little bit unlucky, and actually once you have a 5th walnut, you can actually get away with using a regular walnut as well. Again, right there you can see that's sort of the sweet spot. You clear out all these rows. You now have a lot of space to use the Explodonuts. And again, you know, I try to use the Explodonuts in rows that are either right next to the dancer zombie or right next to the pole vaulter zombie, so that you don't get the awkward situation where he jumps over and you get missed and he sort of blocks that row. So again, like almost certainly going to want to use an Explodonut right here. He actually decides to use the giant walnuts. Nothing wrong with that, more a matter of preference. Again, now has a couple of Explodonuts. Unfortunately the middle row got a little bit trolled right there, but that's okay. Again, now going to use a giant walnut. And yeah, got a little, I won't say lucky because I think he intended to do that, but making sure that you always have a space for your Explodonuts. That sounds weird, I know, but that's what it is. Very important to do that. Didn't get a 50% rule. Got very unlucky there. I actually definitely got a little bit trolled. Okay to, in the 3rd flag like this, use the occasional lawnmower. Again, it sort of helps to focus all the zombies in a particular row. You can see right there, again, getting great value out of the Explodonuts. A lot of this you'll sort of see is a little bit getting used to. It's all about sort of finding that balance of making sure you always have a space for the Explodonut, and sort of balancing that with when you use the giant walnuts and when you use the lawnmowers and things like that as well. So, I actually thought that was the last wave, but you can see here, nothing wrong also with using the lawnmowers right before the huge wave and saving a couple of giant walnuts for the final wave as well. You can see he did that just to get some of the zombies out of the way. Good usage there. Again, actually didn't get any vaulters and any dancers on the final wave. That's incredible. That's very good. And again, you have a couple of backups at the end there. This was a very, very smooth level, and I think an excellent demonstration of how Walnut Bowling 2 should be played. Again, got a little bit unlucky in 1 or 2 cases, but that was great. Now on to everybody's favorite minigame casually and least favorite minigame to speedrun, or at least it's up there with my least favorites, and that is Bobsled Bonanza. Another conveyor level that, you know, only in this case you really can't manipulate the plants that you get. I think it technically you can, but like you usually don't get 4 of any particular type of plant anyway on this level, so that's what you got. So you're always guaranteed to start with these 6 plants, that being 2 melon pults, the coffee bean with the magnet, and the potato mine. You'll actually see we use the potato mine in the back here, right behind the this is the correct setup, by the way. We've tested a lot of different setups. It's possible that if by putting the walnuts in the front row that you could get something that's a little bit faster, but this finds that excellent balance of safety versus security, so things like that. Yep. So we actually flopped Column Like You See 'Em and Bobsled Bonanza, and we're doing YMB's world record run, so you can see that you know, this is just a video right here. This is, yeah, it's all pre-recorded. This is not no cheats or anything. Again, once you get a pumpkin, you'll want to use that right as those zombies are starting to appear on the magnets, and you can see now that's why we get so much value out of that potato mine. We would have started losing the pots and things like that. Well, we actually did lose a little bit anyway. And use the jalapeno right during this Jack-in-the-Box wave, right as all the zombies appear on screen. That's the 9th wave, or the 19th wave. This has weird flag situations, but you always want to save your jalapenos for those waves that are right before the huge waves. Very, very important to do that. Even if you start losing some of your more valuable plants, you want to really try to save as many of the jalapenos as you can for situations like that. You can see it looks a little bit painful to, he's actually gotten a little bit of bad RNG here. He didn't get any squashes. He didn't get that many jalapenos. He might actually have to use one of them a little bit early here, but that's what we got. Yep. Jalapenos are definitely the most important plant to get, and you really, really want to try to do everything in your power to not use them before the huge wave, even if it means losing some of your plants and things like that. I know this looks very stress-inducing to the casual eye, and believe me, it is. But it's more important to save those jalapenos than it is to not lose your melons, if that makes sense. Again, same thing right here. Once you get this 9th wave, wait till they all get on screen, use the jalapeno. And now, believe it or not, that will cause the huge wave to appear. And now, believe it or not, this final wave is going to die instantly, despite not having any firepower at all. All the zombies are basically going to appear in the same rows. A quick 1-2 with the jalapenos, and not only was the row done, well, I guess this is a fake gold, right? But it was very, very, very fast. So you can see it actually is worth it to lose all of your plants rather than sacrificing those jalapenos. Again, very stress-inducing in casual play, but definitely the right move in a speedrunning context. Otherwise, if you don't have jalapenos for the final wave or for the 9th wave / the 19th wave, you're gonna be in a world of hurt. It's gonna be very, very painful. All right, so moving on now to Pogo Party. One that has a unique strategy that I definitely did not come up with myself, but that works very, very well. One advantage of Pogo Party is it actually takes the zombies a long time to appear on screen at the very beginning of the level. So as a result, we actually get a chance to plant about 6 or 7 sunflowers before we even get the first zombie. And the first zombie, as you can see, dies to the rake, which is why, again, it's important to balance your rakes. Make sure that you always have rakes for the levels like this that have early zombies that benefit dying to them. Again, this level, I would say that the biggest challenge is actually the first flag, where really what we try to do is find that perfect balance between planting sun. You obviously want to have as much sun as possible, getting the gloom shrooms out, which you want to start with a gloom in the 8th column, that's for sure, and finding, you know, a balance between using walnuts and I like the strategy right here, using the walnuts and the lawnmowers. Again, you can see he gets a very nice 50% rule right there, and already he's sort of trying to plan in advance a little bit. Okay, where can I get the where can I get the next one? He does a great job here of getting the 50% rule, but still making use of the lawnmowers. Again, what's very risky, though, of course, is once you use those lawnmowers, they're gone. So you want to, so what we do here is, actually this is the one level where we take the split pea, because the split pea does enough damage, you can see right here, does just enough damage when coupled with at least one gloom that, you know, that you're not going to run into a situation where you take a death. One quick tip about the imitator squash has a very, very funny hitbox that is, that's crazy. So the reason for column 8 actually is because the you do column 8 before column 9 on this level, because the pogo animation, you do a little bit more damage to him as he's hopping across it. You can basically do damage in column 9, 8, and 7. And yeah, like you said, you know, there's a chance to get the 50% rule when you have the gloom in column 8 like this. Versus there's no chance of getting the 50% rule when he's in column 9. So that's why we start with column 8. And again, also, you know, sort of finding a good balance of planting the glooms, but also making sure these other rows are protected with the split pea. And then again, for, you know, any column like this, where, you know, then start to put your glooms in column 9. There's another strategy you can use where you put both glooms in column 8 and column 9 in the same row, and then focus your dooms in the other row. It's possible that it's a little bit faster, but it's also much higher risk, and particularly in a context like this, you really don't want to take on that risk. The jalapeno right here is really just your plan B. You happen to get a zombie that's really, really fast, doesn't die to whatever plants you have right there. Also not a bad idea to use a doom on column 9 like this, just to add a little bit of speed. You don't have to do that. There's nothing wrong if you don't. But again, that's certainly an idea that you can take. Again, the imitator hitbox, basically the hitbox, like, works at a very funny time. Like, it starts to activate before the imitator squash is actually on screen. So again, be very careful there with you know, with when you plant it. We've had some situations where you think you have a squash that's safely going to get a pogo, and it doesn't, and you take a death. That has happened not only to me, but to some of the other runners as well. So again, just be very, very cautious with that. Again, the dooms are really just to help along the 50% rule with in some of the later waves. Just make sure that you have a doom for the final wave, and that you plant it right here in column 7 or column 8 in the 3rd row. That'll kill all the zombies that appear on screen, including the bungee zombies that appear later on. You see, that's actually why we're planting some additional plants in column 6, just because, again, you run into a situation. I would have used that a little bit earlier, but again, doesn't end up making a huge difference. Again, very nice when you have that doom right available for you on the final wave. Also, you know, if you miss one, if you mistime the doom, what you want to do here is you want to wait for the yee-ha. You want to wait for that ha, then use the coffee bean, and you'll see very nicely like this, you kill all the zombies that are on screen. Hopefully get yourself, if you're starting off, maybe a 6 minute to 6 minute 15 level. If you're more advanced, a 5:45 to 6 minute level, and if you're really good, you can get sub 5:45. But there is some RNG that definitely comes into play in that level. Anyway, now we move on again to everybody's another level that's kind of fun casually, but not so fun in a speedrunning context. That's Zombie Nimble. What we do here is we plant an early potato mine. Again, just for this very reason, if the second zombie appears in the row with all your sun, it's a very cheap, efficient way to proc the 50% rule. And then at this point, again, you'll want to maybe let 1 or 2 zombies go. You can play this level a couple different ways. One is by taking advantage of what we call the 9th column gloom strat. I recommend that only really for advanced runners. There's a lot that can go wrong. If you want a little bit of a safer strategy, you can do 8th column glooms. I definitely recommend that the 9th column glooms are definitely faster. You'll also want to use your potato mines and your tangle kelps and things like that for any bucket or any cone heads that you get in some of these rows right here. Also try to be planting sun as quickly as you can, and also very important, make sure that you keep your gloom shrooms protected. More than one disaster has occurred on this level, for sure. The other thing you can do is to help protect your glooms, put a fume in the 6th column like this, right behind, either right behind the gloom or in one of the off columns like this. This will help. You can see this gloom right here helps protect against the Vulture zombie, which does not die to the gloom itself, but will die, if you have basically a Vulture plus a little bit more firepower. Also make sure that you're starting to protect the pool a little bit from the diver zombies. Again, you can basically get away with one of them sort of getting through, but you don't want more than one. So again, try to keep those tangle kelps down exactly like YMB does right here. Again, this one he's actually going to let go. I think that's a good strategy. Again, these 9th column glooms are very good. And then later on in the level, you can start to plant some glooms a little bit deeper into the pool so that you have a solution for the diver zombies. Again, you can see right here, I really like this strategy right here of cleaning out a bunch of those divers all at once. Again, this is an aggressive strategy, but not a bad one. Also very important, I know I'm saying a lot of things are very important, but they are. Make sure that you replace the pumpkin on these 9th column glooms at least once during the level. And then you can see right here, you have you can do column 6, column 7, whatever you want, whatever you feel safe with. This basically here is your dolphin insurance policy. If you don't have any more tangle kelps. So again, just a nice solution to a couple of those dolphins. Make sure that you put a pumpkin around it just to keep it safe. Again, once you get 2 of them, the dolphins will just begin to melt. This is really your setup right here. You want to try to get to that as soon as possible. Again, somewhere in the 12 to 14 sunflowers is definitely sufficient. Again, put a couple more fumes, just to help protect your glooms a little bit, help to protect against the Vulture zombies, because those Vulture zombies can be a real problem. Use the occasional gloom or potato mine as kind of a backup strategy if you absolutely have to. And again, be ready for a final wave, which will involve some zombies in the pool. But you can see right there, gets cleaned out nicely. It's definitely possible to get a 4-minute level like YMB does. Don't be discouraged if you're early on and it's in the 4 minutes 30 second range, or even in the 5-minute range as you're just starting to learn this category. But yeah, keep moving along. That's what we got. Some of these later levels, things get a little bit easier. We're going to go at a normal pace through Zombotany and Zombotany 2, but the other levels I'm going to play at 2x speed because they really are fairly trivial, and just kind of a matter of like doing the things in order. So these last 2 levels are sort of the last 2 skill-based levels, I would say, in the run. You can see right here, we take the imitator sunflower because, again, in this level, it's actually very difficult to get the amount of sun out that you need. And so by employing a strategy like this, and again, also using your lawnmowers to sort of stall out the first couple of waves, I think that's really that's a good way to go. The imitator sunflower, again, just really helps you get that sun out very quickly. I like 15 sunflowers on this level. Some other runners will use different amounts, but that can be okay. If you're looking for a slightly more conservative strategy, you can skip the Doom Shroom and instead use a garlic, which will make the zombies push towards the middle rows just a little bit. Yeah, you can see here that Again, you know, important to, again, kind of balance, you know, each 50% roll. You can see he's trying there. He wants to make sure he has enough sun to get the full. You need about 400 sun, believe it or not, to do a pumpkin-protected gloom shroom to get everything that you need. But you can see right here, you know, you use the lawnmower if you can, then plant a pumpkin or a potato there to make sure that whatever appears next there is going to be okay. And once you get to the 9th wave, just use your either your chomper or your squash, preferably the squash, to deal with it. And your gloom shroom will deal with all the zombies very well in these top 3 rows right there in the 9th column. So again, another situation, he's hoping to set up an early potato mine. I think he should be successful. Again, in the second half, very you really want to focus almost all your efforts on getting rid of those pesky walnut zombies. Just because, again, they have much more hit points than the regular zombies. And you can see, once they start chomping the potato, you can, that's why it's important to have so much sun, is because, yeah, you're in a situation here where, yeah, that you want to make sure on every wave it's possible to get it's possible to get one of the walnuts. What he's doing here is a very interesting strategy, preparing for the 9th wave so that you can use a Doom on the 9th wave and that you'll have it back off cooldown for the final wave. Again, also a nice idea to use the squash, unless, again, the squash is either on cooldown or the zombie is behind one of these two waves, or one of these 2 pumpkins as well. You can see this went so well, believe it or not, that the Doom is only just barely gonna be off cooldown by the time the final wave comes around. So you can do it in either column, a row 2 or row 3, and again, just Doom away, and that saves you sort of the annoying situation of needing to use a chomper and a squash and more chompers and waiting for the cooldown. If you happen to get like 4, or even maybe 5 walnuts on the final wave. So that level, he makes it look easy. It's not easy. You'll definitely want to practice it. Definitely want to get used to not losing your sun-producing plants. And again, sort of finding that balance of being able to satisfy the 50% rule, use the lawnmower strategically, keep your glooms protected, and then making sure the second half goes fast by use of the chomper, the squash, and the doom shroom. I'm gonna lose my voice by the end of this. I really am. This is another level where it's potentially nice to have a rake. We're going to talk about rake strategies a little bit as we do that. Yes, the squash is very interesting on this level. We'll talk about some ways to hopefully deal with the squash as effectively as possible. And gets a little lucky. There was a chance that zombie was going to appear in the top row and cause some problems, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to. In this level, we use the 8th column gloom strategy because the second half is filled with squashes. It's possible to use 9th column gloom strategies, but you're really putting yourself in an extremely high-risk situation, so I wouldn't recommend doing that in a all mini-games run, or certainly in a 100% attempt or anything like that. Yeah, the squash gives everybody a ton of anxiety, so we'll sort of talk about some solutions to hopefully deal with that squash, because he is really nasty. He's really nasty. Again, definitely a good idea to, in whatever the rows are where you don't plant your sunflowers, try to use both of those lawnmowers while still making sure you're satisfying the 50% rule. Try to get a pumpkin down early-ish so that you don't take any unnecessary damage to your gloom. And again, it's actually okay to plant your sunflowers all the way up to the 7th column right here. Again, sometimes your sunflowers will take extra damage, they'll take a death. That's okay. It's very sad for the sunflowers, but again, we can't get too emotionally attached to our plants right here. And again, also important is that on the 9th wave, that you wow, that super lucky here, that you make sure that you kill all of the zombies on screen so that the huge wave will appear. You can see that that actually worked out very, very nicely in YMB's favor. And again, you can even let a couple of the early pool ones go if you have to. Again, in the second half, that's why it's so important to make sure you get all of your sun down in the first half, because in the second half you really want to make sure that everything possible is available to deal with the squashes. Use your pumpkin, use another squash, use a sunflower, use whatever you can to help protect the 8th and these 8th column glooms that you have right here. And really, your 50% rules are going to be satisfied not by the glooms, but by the chompers at this point. So that's why, again, it looks like he has a crap load of sun, and he does, but that's because he's really going to be using a chomper every single wave possible, really with only a few exceptions. Also, gotta get those tall nuts out of the way ASAP. There's just no way you're gonna do enough damage to satisfy the 50% rule any other way. Again, nothing wrong. We open up the 9th column right here for the chompers. I really like that idea. Use a squash if you can. It's a little bit cheaper than the chomper. But again, always make sure on every single wave you have either the potato or the sunflower off cooldown. And again, sort of as a super fast swag strat, you can use a Doom on the 9th wave and the 19th waves like this. You know, you don't have to. Don't worry if you're a little bit of a newer runner. That's sort of just a way to save just a couple extra seconds. But again, you don't have to. Also important, make sure that everything out of the way is out of the way when you use the chomper. Otherwise, there's going to be another column that runs you into some serious trouble. You can see I actually like this strategy right here. You can kind of use a squash or something else to potentially deal with a tall nut that you're not able to use the chomper for earlier in the level. Make sure he's right off that square right there, just like he did. And again, you've done enough damage at this point where the potato mine should finish him off. And just keep up with those chompers on every walnut that you possibly can. You know, either use the squash or the chomper, preferably the squash if you have the option. And then again, if you're feeling some swag strats, you can use a Doom on the 19th wave. I'm gonna be in a little bit of trouble here, yeah. Just using it a little bit early. In that case, actually missed that guy, unfortunately, so didn't get his 50% rule, but actually gets a really nice 19th wave to kind of keep things okay. The jalapenos have a little bit more health, it seems, or are a little bit slower. They just die a little bit slower than the regular zombies. And again, make sure you have one Doom for the final wave. At this point, even if you lose a Gloom Shroom, that's going to be okay. Really, at any point, if you lose a Gloom Shroom, it can be okay. You know, you just want to make sure that you don't lose too many, that you keep that cooldown pretty fresh, and just use your Doom Shroom either in the 3rd or 4th column right there on the very edge. So again, the squash, really at every wave, you want to be thinking, okay, do I need to deal with a squash? If yes, deal with it as fast as possible. Step 2, is there a walnut? If so, how do I deal with it as fast as possible? That's sort of going to be your mindset, really, for those every time from after the first huge wave onwards. At this point, I'm going to fast forward through this level a little bit. It's mostly trivial. We'll talk about it sort of very quickly. There is a 50% rule in this level. However, the zombies the next wave doesn't come on screen in 21 to 31 seconds. It comes only in 7.5 seconds. And the minimum amount of time per wave is 6 seconds. So in other words, by using a cherry like you saw YMB do right there, the most amount of time that you can save is just about 1.5 seconds. However, what's hugely important is to make sure that you have a cherry for the 9th wave, the 19th waves, 29th waves, and the final wave, like you saw him use just a couple waves before. Again, really at this point, this is the layout you want to use right here. Use the important walnuts are in the pool, just so that you have a solution to the diver zombies. Next most important is to use use the cherries against the football, or use a couple walnuts and cherries against the football zombies. Right there, that's a perfect example. You need all of those zombies on the 9th, 19th, and 29th waves, right before the huge waves. You need all of those to be dead, so very important that you have 2 cherries available there, as well as 2 cherries available for the final wave. So it's okay to use the occasional cherry early on in each flag, but then you really want to make sure that you're saving the rest. Yeah, you can see he had so many football zombies at the top there, and he knew that he had at least the 2 that he needed for the 29th wave. Yeah, at this point, just kind of save your stuff, balance the firepower in each row, and again, use that cherry boom boom for the 29th wave. And now that it's the final wave, again, wait for all the zombies to appear on screen back to back. Even got an extra one just as a bit of a swag strat, and there we go. Okay, so Last Stand. We're going to talk about a couple different strategies for Last Stand here. The first one is probably the one that he used here is probably the safest one. Really, it's very important to pick your plants as quickly as you can, and then begin setting up 5 cobs as fast as you can, with a 6th one immediately to follow. Really, what we try to do here is, again, it sort of has a very similar 50% rule to the last level, where you need to make sure that 50% of the current wave's hit points is done before the next wave appears. However, that next wave will appear only 7.5 seconds rather than the typical 6 seconds. This strategy takes a lot of finesse. It's pretty difficult, and those vaulters are a real pain in the ass. So again, it's very impatient. Really, what you want to do is just kind of alternate back and forth, back and forth. And one thing you can do, look at where the zombie's head is, and what the new wave is sort of signified by when that head has fully stopped moving. That's sort of the best tip that I can give. So I'm going to talk about 2 more strategies that are a little faster and safer potentially. And again, then for the huge wave like this, fire one early right into the pool, right into that spot right there, and then wait for all the zombies to appear on screen, and then again a quick 1-2 with the cobs to finish them off. Again, right after you click the next wave, start firing your first cob immediately after that. Again, these cobs are very difficult to manage. This is definitely a difficult strategy that requires, kind of get some getting used to for sure. Don't be shy to use the occasional squash or jalapeno even as a backup, just to make sure that, things don't run into too much trouble. Again, also, I like that spot that he fired right there. You make sure that if you do have a vaulter that's running rogue, he had to use 2 on this one because he had 2 vaulters that were running ahead. Nothing wrong with that. Just, you are limited a little bit by the number of cobs that you're able to place. Another thing you can do is place a squash if you get a football zombie in a row that you haven't used the cob in just yet. I know that's kind of a lot to digest, and this strategy is definitely not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but see, he's kind of in an interesting situation right here. Goes 1-2, lets that uses probably even 1 more than he really had to. Gets a couple of backup kelps right here. I agree with that. Again, just make sure that you're firing that cob as quickly as you can to start the level. Again, gets a bad 50% rule right there. But again, looking at that bottom right spot right there, I know it's hard to see, but you've satisfied the 50% rule if immediately upon impact, you see the head start to move, and then fire the next cob right as the head stops moving. So you can see here, boom, gets the 50% rule, head stops moving, fires the next one. And if you use that strategy, that sort of helps you get a mental gauge of about when, you should be firing. And again, just sort of alternate back and forth between each one. Again, if you get an extra football zombie, just like he did right there, don't hesitate to use the squash or use an extra cob or whatever it is that you want to do, because those football zombies have a ton of hit points and are very fast and annoying. Again, you don't have to do what he did here, but again, usually, it's a little bit safer to to do that. And again, the Tangle Kelps can be a really nice solution for the pool if the pool gets out of control. Hey, Kuko, what's going on? Welcome, welcome. Hope you enjoy the tutorial. Ooh, yeah, gets a little bit unlucky there. That guy was super slow, and yeah, kind of moves along to the next ones. Again, the reason we're not... We could technically plant an 8th cob, but then you run out of plants for, like, you know, the emergency squash, the emergency final wave problem. So really, you never want to have more than 7 cobs on screen. Any more than that, you're just taking too much of a risk for sure. Again, wait till the head stops moving, fire the next one, and if you get a football that's in another row, just use a squash or whatever to deal with it. And fire the cob. Wait till the head stops moving. He got a bad 50% rule right there because he didn't get either of the bucket heads. That one also got a bad 50% rule. So again, wait till the head stops moving, then kind of continue to fire. Again, really kind of not getting great RNG here, but that's how it goes. And wait till the head stops moving. Well, this is the huge wave, so that's kind of a special case anyway. And then again, make sure to fire 1 in the pool right away. And then kind of, again, alternate between the 2 rows. Understand that you might end up missing one of the rows, so it's okay to use a little bit of a backup if you absolutely have to. And again, just click that continue on slot as soon as humanly possible. Again, I fully support the extra Tangle Kelps, particularly in a mini games type of setting like this. Again, wait till the head stops moving. Fire the next one. Again, I was like, that one might have been a little bit early. Wait till the head stops moving. Fire. Wait till the head stops moving. Fire. And again, if you get the double footballer, you know, just be aware that that could be a little bit annoying. And sometimes you saw he did it just there. You have to adjust your spot just a little bit to make sure that you're getting all of the dangerous zombies at once. Might have not gotten the 50% rule there. So again, you can go a little bit based on timing, a little bit based on kind of instinct, but again, I like using the zombie's head at the bottom to kind of be my signal. And yeah, with the fast zombies like that, nothing wrong with just getting rid of them. And again, you have the cherry here for the very final wave. That's the 5th wave. You even have a doom. Looks like he's going to use the doom. Kind of made sense. Yep. Can use a doom, can use the cherry, can use your cobs, just, you know, going right ahead and doing that. And these next couple I'm going to be playing through at double speed. You know, we're really reaching the point in the run where there's really no skill whatsoever. The only plants that you have to bring on this level are the star fruit, which the game picks for you, the 2 sunflowers, including the imitator sunflower, and the puff shroom, which may look interesting, but basically what this does is it helps protect your sunflowers if you get early zombies in these rows. So again, that's a you know, that's again, it's a little bit, you know, a little bit aggressive, but you can see what he's doing right here. He's stalling this zombie out such that he can plant his first star fruit, and that zombie's not going to be at risk of damaging the sunflowers that he has in that row. And again, by the time you start to get some of, you know, this 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th wave, you already are probably going to have 5 or 6 sunflowers out. You want to plant 12 sunflowers total. Again, as far back and as safe as you can. Again, unless you're sort of in a situation like him, that's what you get. We're going to be talking about the Gloom strat in just a little bit, Shiny. I wanted to kind of give a little bit of an overview of some of the different strategies that we can use on Last Stand, and then sort of the pros and cons of each one. Yep. Gonna be talking about that just a little bit later in the run. Again, 12 sunflowers. Again, really as fast as you can. Try to plant those star fruit. With this one, you want to make sure that you get your 3rd zombie here before you feed either of the zombies. again, get the 4th one before you feed these ones. And again, try to keep your sun at nice, even intervals of 25 so that you can plant more snorkel zombies. I guess you're planting them. There's been some debate about whether 8 or 9 snorkel zombies is optimal for this level. I find it's a little, it can be a little bit either way. It's a little bit safer to do 9. I want to say 10 is definitely wrong, because that 10th zombie will not have more than paid for itself once you factor in the feeding of the brains and things like that as well. So 9 is pretty good. 8 can work. There's a little bit of sun RNG in this level that can sort of affect what's a good time versus a bad time. Again, just try to keep your sun in even intervals of 25 right as you reach the end of the level, so that again, sometimes you don't have the choice, but that's what you get. And Whack-A-Zombie, also called early carpal tunnel syndrome. Really what you want to do here is just keep all of the try to bust all of the graves other than those that are nice and condensed, just because, again, it means you need to move your mouse around a little bit less on the final wave. This is a pure auto-scroller, meaning that even if you don't kill the zombies quickly, the next wave will appear in the same increments that it did before. Again, we save the easiest for last, the most consistent level for last. This level should never vary by more than about a second. Really no RNG at all, other than what zombies happen to appear on the final wave. So that's that's kind of the idea here, and that's the run. Again, a lot of the levels are very different, so they really do require a lot of practice. Don't be discouraged if you can't quite pull off some of these top strategies at the very beginning. One last comment here: never bust below 4 graves. If you do that, the game will give you a bunch of extra graves until it feels like you have enough of them. So 4 graves is the magic number, and you want them all to be in a nice little square like that, if you can, because again, then you can sort of see him spamming out like that. You can kill all the zombies without moving your mouse around very much. It's fast, it's efficient. It really only matters for the final wave, but that's what you get. Yeah. So anyway, again, I hope you enjoy. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. At this point, if you want to head out, that's okay. But we're going to be discussing 2 more strategies that you can use for Last Stand that are a little bit faster, but a little bit higher risk and require quite a bit more finesse, for sure. So I'm going to be talking about a couple of those, and again, that's the run. Again, a great time is going to be in the hour 30 to hour 40 type of time frame. A good run is going to be in the hour 40 to hour 50 range. Newer runners will probably find themselves maybe in the hour 50 to 2 hour range. And then again, if you haven't studied some of these strategies or haven't practiced much at all, you might get a over 2 hour run. But again, don't be discouraged. We have a great community. Someone will post the link to the Discord, I'm sure, in chat, which will be really nice. But that's what we get. So we have an old run coming up next. If you have a link, Amy, I guess we could if you have your newer version of it. I just went with the one that was on speedrun.com, but I wanted to talk very quickly about an alternative strategy to Last Stand, just broadly speaking, and then one more alternative strategy to Last Stand as well. So we may not watch this whole thing, but again, there is another strategy to Last Stand that does not involve launching cobs, which you'll see right here. This is a very aggressive strategy that involves 9th column dooms, and you start off basically by planting a couple of balloons and a couple of magnets right here and here, like you can see, and then sort of adding in your gloom shrooms after that a little bit. Luckily, the coffee bean is very low cooldown, so again, it's very possible to basically get your get the magnets going up a little bit quicker, basically this is the strategy. You go 9th column glooms with planting pumpkins on the ones that are not in the pool, You see this guy here is a little bit of a pain in the ass, but we lucked out a little bit by getting him with the rake. If you don't get him with the rake, you actually have to plant another gloom or fume a little bit early. Thank you for the Discord, by the way, May. I really appreciate that. Again, the one thing you have to be really careful for, particularly in this first flag, is the vulture zombies. Those guys are pretty darn nasty. But we do have the advantage of being able to use the Doom Shroom on the final wave, which again, you want to wait just a second, make sure everybody gets on screen, and you get them all, which is very, very nice. Again, you know, start to plant things, and again, your cooldowns do reset when you restart the level like that. So that's why, again, for an aggressive strategy, you can definitely go with something that looks like this. Again, if you're feeling super aggressive, you can plant a fume or a pumpkin and a magnet right here in the 8th column. Again, you know, that's definitely on the more aggressive side, but nothing wrong with that. And then really what this level becomes about is sort of utilizing the pumpkins and the dooms as effectively as possible. Yeah, slightly meh ending according to Amy, but that's okay. Again, we're just talking more generally about the strategy. Again, important to make sure that you're really maximizing the effectiveness of the pumpkins, and that you know, you don't lose any pumpkins and therefore lose any glooms. This is a more difficult strategy, believe it or not, and a higher risk strategy, but one that can potentially be faster, and that personally, for me, feels worth the risk. Again, those Doom Shrooms can be very, very nice in the pool, no question. Makes you want to grind last stand again, Shiny. Definitely. Yep. Again, you know, at some point, your top and your bottom glooms are definitely the most vulnerable. Make sure, again, you try to repair those pumpkins as often as you can, but not too often, because you don't want to run out of sun. It's a very, very delicate balance to do that using this particular strategy. Gonna go do that. That sounds great, Shiny. Yep, sounds great. Yeah. Again, this is a faster strategy because you're more likely to get your 50% rules as quickly as possible, as opposed to other strategies where, you know, the cob strategy, where sometimes you just happen to fire the cob into the wrong row and you don't get the 15% rule and you lose about 2 seconds. It also potentially makes the final waves a little bit faster than with the cob strat, although that's not guaranteed. And your next Doom can definitely go right here. And again, this Doom won't reach the bottom row, so you can, if you want to be, again, very aggressive, use that Jalapeno. Again, don't worry too much if you don't want to be quite that aggressive. All of these waves are beatable without Dooms in the final wave, but again, the diver zombie, or the dolphin zombie, can give you some real problems. So definitely do that. Yep, it could potentially be faster to use a couple of fumes in the bottom row. I actually tried that for a while, but it is difficult. It doesn't provide a lot of DPS for you, and you end up wasting a little bit too much sun. It's more valuable to have an extra pumpkin or two than it is to have that fume. At least for the PC version. Yeah, and really at this point, you know, you're kind of cruising along a little bit. This spot eventually repairs. This is really the best spot for the Doom, for the final wave. But you know, again, you don't have to use a Doom for every final wave. We'll talk a little bit about that later when we talk about a third strategy that you can use for Last Stand. Again, you can see now you're running pretty low on sun. You're really only going to have enough room for one more pumpkin on one of your glooms, plus the Doom, the 200 that you need for the Doom itself, and the coffee bean on the very final wave. yeah, the sun is very, very tight, and you can definitely run into problems with, you know, losing blooms. That's why you saw he's been very conservative about not using pumpkins until it's absolutely necessary, until he's 100% sure he's going to lose the bloom. So you can see even right here, there's enough firepower in some of these rows that, you know, if you don't have to use that pumpkin, don't. Again, very, very stress-inducing right here. You know, potentially got a little bit unlucky here, but you'll see what the strategy is right there at the end. Again, probably would have been better to use one more pumpkin there, to be completely honest, but that's okay. Again, this is pretty scary. You saw he was holding this guy in place with the sunflower, and there you go. That's the end of it. Again, a way to beat Last Stand in almost 6 minutes and 30 seconds. That is a very aggressive, very difficult, but still possible way to do it. So to end our tutorial, I wanted to go just one more possibility. It's a subset of that strategy that's almost as fast, but actually I want to talk about two things, I guess. It's a subset of that strategy that's almost as fast, but not quite. So the first thing I'm going to talk a little bit about is the order that you play the levels in, and why I think that this order of operations is the best. So I start with slot machines, then I do raining seeds, because that for me has the highest standard deviation of all of the levels. It's the next most variant of all of them. Then I do Invisigool, then I do Call 'em Like You See 'em, and then I do Pogo Party. That's not because Pogo Party is more RNG based, but because, and I'll show you this really quickly here, because you have to buy 2 rakes in the game. You buy a rake at the very beginning, and then you have to buy a second one that you use for, or I guess it's 3 rakes technically. One that you use for Pogo Party, Walnut Bowling, and potentially Walnut Bowling 2, and then one you use for Zombie Nimble, Zombotany 2, and Zombotany 1. And so the reason that that's faster is if you say you wanted to buy a rake after Raining Seeds, you would finish Slot Machine, you'd have to go back to main menu, click the shop, click buy the rake, click main menu, click Minigames, and then click Raining Seeds. That's very slow. It takes several seconds to do that, probably 4 to 5 seconds to do that efficiently. However, if immediately after you click on, say, Pogo Party, certain levels like Pogo Party have a plant selection screen. And so what you do here, you immediately go to shop, buy the rake, go back, and you're back in the level. It takes like 2 seconds as opposed to 5 seconds. So the reason that I do Pogo Party so early is because of the levels that have that plant selection screen, this one is the most variant of all of them. So it makes a lot of sense to do Pogo Party this early so that you can buy the rake by not needing to exit out of and, you know, waste 3, 4, 5 seconds by clicking through the screen as quickly as you can. You can just click it. You can click the shop button right here in the plant selection screen, and then you go back and you have all the plants at your disposal, and you've lost no time like menuing through the mini game screen and all that crap. So that's why I do that. So then I do Walnut Bowling, then Walnut Bowling 2 because I want another level that uses the rake. And then Portal Combat, because in Portal Combat you actually don't want to use the rake because it can manipulate RNG in a bad way for you. Then again, I go to Zombie Nimble. I do the same thing. I'm in the plant selection screen. I can buy the rake, and then that gives me the rake that I need for Zombie Nimble, which helps speed-wise, Zombotany 2 and Zombotany 1. So again, that's sort of the reason we take the rake when we do, or when I do, and then the rest of these are basically, I should actually move Last Stand up a little bit faster. That'll be the final version of it. I'll actually move it up. Now that we use a slightly riskier strategy, I'll move it up to here. In the order that you see right here, in my opinion, is the correct order to do the mini games in. Again, balancing the high RNG levels first, but also buying the rake at a strategic time that does not lose you any time, and then moving to the higher difficulty execution levels next, and then to the ones that are really very easy at the very end. I should actually move Seeing Stars a little bit, even a little bit lower than this. Why my game is being a little bit. Oh, I see. I'm already in the editor. So move this down. Whoops. Should have had this all taken care of. But this right here really is the best order. So last stand, bobsled. So I guess starting at the beginning, slot machine, raining seeds, Invisigool, call 'em like you see 'em, Pogo Party, Dr. Zomboss's Revenge, Walnut 1, Walnut 2, Portal Combat, Zombie Nimble, Zombotany 2, Zombotany 1, Last Stand, Bobsled Bonanza, Begooled Twist, Big Zombie Little Trouble, Seeing Stars, Zombaquarium, and then Whack-a-Mole, Whack-a-Zombie. So that is it. That is the ideal order of operations for the levels. You know, if you want to do them differently based on your own preference, I would say go for it. Zombitroll. That's what I call it. I sort of have a troll pun because minigames can definitely troll you pretty significantly. So again, last to sort of finish off the minigames tutorial, I want to show you one more possibility for Last Stand. I'm not going to play the level all the way through. Ooh, I want to keep my minigames open, keep my layout looking fresh. Looking complete. So we'll go minigames, and then this is a slightly slower but slightly safer version of Last Stand. So what we do first, again, you probably won't have the rake on this, so this is already a little bit different. But you want to pick the plants basically in this order right here. It's not a huge deal, and then you see what Amy did in his run was he only planted three of the glooms up front. I like to do just a little bit more, and I also like to plant just a couple more of these right at the very beginning. It takes maybe about 3 more seconds. Again, I wasn't being very fast here, but it takes maybe about 3 more seconds to add just a couple extra pumpkins to some of these levels. But it really is a little bit safer than trying to do the 3 glooms. You want to start with 4 glooms, 2 pumpkins, 2 magnets, and then put the other 2 pumpkins right after you enter the level. And you also want to do a couple. I didn't actually do that. I should have done that, but a couple of Tangle Kelps just to help deal with the final waves a little bit faster. And if you do the Tangle Kelps like this, you can actually potentially avoid needing to use a Doom on some of the final waves, and that'll give you a little bit more. Flexibility in the final wave. So, yep, that guy should be taken care of there. I'm gonna say that wave was very slow to appear on screen. That was super bizarre. Again, we have a final wave right here. Whoops. Oh, yeah, already I messed this up a little bit, but I should have had one more Tangle Kelp in the pool already here. So again, I already messed it up a little bit. I could have used the Doom if I wanted to, but again, just to sort of talk a little bit more about what the layout should look like. Again, if you're looking to do that slightly safer thing. So again, start with Imitator Pumpkin. This. Again, I'm a little bit rusty on this myself, so obviously should have practiced a little bit more offline. Get this out. Whoops. And get this out. Then do this, and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, and then actually you want to get some tangles in the pool so that you're ready to deal with the final wave as it comes in, and you can even start planting a couple more. This is really the strategy that you want to do. Again, it's about 3 to 4 seconds slower in the setup phase than it would be earlier on. And again, if you want to, you can actually start to plant your glooms a little bit earlier. I don't like these necessarily taking damage that early, but again, this is still a fairly safe way to to get a little bit more firepower out. And again, if you get a rogue vaulter, just use an extra squash against him. Keep your pool basically filled with all the Tangle Kelps. You're in the first wave in particular. Your glooms in the pool really aren't that useful, but this is a slightly safer subset of the strategy that we had. I also wanted to plant a couple more couple more magnets here. There's really no reason not to have at least 4 magnets out by the time you reach this point, and then basically follow the same strategy that we had the last time around. So again, I know that was, I kind of messed it up the first time, but that's okay. A little bit more of a roundabout way. You can see right here these, everything dies as quickly as possible right in the pool. And again, you really don't even need to use the gloom. It might save a second or two, and then again, at this point, you can you can do this. And yeah, really sort of have everything ready for the pool again. Again, eventually, when you're sort of feeling ready for it, you can plant an extra magnet. It is nice to have 6 magnets out on this level, no question. You could plant them in the pool as well. I've sort of tinkered around with that strategy a little bit. They're potentially vulnerable to some stuff in the final wave, but it's not necessarily that bad. You know, again, same kind of thing here. And then again, just make sure that you always have at least one pumpkin that's ready to replace the pumpkins that you can. And again, doing this strategy, you don't even need to use the dooms on the final wave. Again, it's a little bit slower. You should be able to get about a 7-minute time as opposed to a 6-minute and 40-second time. So again, it's a little bit slower, but a little bit safer and still faster, and I find more consistent than the cob strategy for sure. So yep, so that's really about it. Again, you know, thank you so much for tuning into this tutorial. Again, then you basically do that, and then you do use a doom on the, usually I do it for the 4th and the 5th waves. You don't have to, but really that's about it. Again, thank you all for tuning into the tutorial. Those of you on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed the content, and those of you that stuck with us for this whole thing on Twitch, again, I really appreciate that as well. I'm certainly here and available if you have any questions. We also have our Discord, which is posted in the chat for Twitch. And you know, again, thank you for the content that Amy provided for the last machine, or the last stand strategy. And thank you again to YMB LCZA for the content in the actual demonstration. Again, ease into it, learn the levels, practice the levels one by one, and no question in my mind, you'll become a minigames master in no time at all. Again, I really appreciate the support. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Hope you learned a couple of new things as to why we do what we do. And again, you know, until next time, stay safe, stay, you know, keep yourselves healthy. You know, hope your lives are treating you well, and we'll talk to you all later. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.